Chapter 4. The Fight. Moira closed her eyes, balled her fists, and turned around swinging both her arms in a circular motion. The force of her fist collided with solid flesh and hard bone. She only stopped swinging when she heard the noises that sounded like human wailings. Unsure of what to expect, she opened her eyes one at a time. Moira was embarrassed. There lay the boy on the floor in a fetal position. His dark coffee-colored hands covered his head to block himself from the onslaught of Moira's consistent and rapid blows. He gasped for air. When the young man didn't feel fist punching his skin, he removed his arms from over his head. Moira admired his smooth skin and his abundant, dark, curly locks. She leaned forward and placed one hand on her knee and the other on her heart. Her breathing slowed. She straightened up and cut the unknown boy a frosty glance. "What's wrong with you? You don't chase after girls in dark buildings, especially on Halloween," scolded Moira. "I wanted to return this. Besides, it's not dark in this building," he countered. Moira looked up and the light bulbs were now bright and beaming. She was confused. The young man held out his arm toward Moira. Grasped between his fingers was a leather-bound notebook embroidered with purple and gold writing. Moira snatched it from his hand. She turned the journal over and checked the lock on her diary. The youthful man dusted off his jeans and picked himself off of the ground. "I wouldn't read your journal, because I definitely wouldn't want anyone to read mine." "He keeps a journal?" She wanted to be angry, but as she gazed into his gray eyes and admired his thick dark eyebrows and his barely there mustache, her anger melted like a bag of ice being kissed by the rays of the sun. The pubescent boy took his left hand and pushed his curly locks out of his face. His cartoonish dimples became even more pronounced when he flashed Moira a smile. "My name is Edward," he replied. He extended his hand toward Moira. Moira hesitated. She had not forgiven him for frightening her, but she did not want to appear rude. She accepted his hand. His grip was soft, yet firm. "I'm Moira," she replied. She slipped her hand out of his as if holding it was some forbidden sin. "I know your name," he replied. "Excuse me?" Moira questioned. "You always score higher than me on every test in Mrs. Dudley's Latin class. You probably don't recognize me because I sit in the back and normally have on the green baseball cap," Edward said. Moira placed her hand on her chin and imagined all the people in her class and smiled when she got a hint of who she thought he might be. "Do you wear glasses?" Moira questioned. "Yeah, but I got contacts recently," Edward replied. "You look different," Moira responded. "Is that good?" Edward asked curiously. "Not good or bad, just different," Moira replied. "Oh, well, your journal fell from your backpack and I just wanted to return it," Edward responded with disappointment in his tone. Moira looked down the hallway. Her belongings were scattered across the floor. She kneeled down and picked up her favorite purple pen. Edward followed her lead and helped her gather the remainder of the contents that had fallen from her backpack. Her bathroom encounter was still etched in her mind. Moira wanted to tell him what she witnessed in the bathroom because she did not want to harbor her fear alone. She decided to keep her secret to herself, because divulging something so weird and personal could give him the wrong impression. "Why were you running so fast? Were you trying to catch the bus or something?" "I didn't want to miss my ride. It's no fun walking home in the rain." Moira and Edward both reached the last piece of paper when he noticed a few tricklets of blood on her hand. "What happened?" he asked. Moira combed through her mind for a believable answer. She did not want to reveal anything about her bathroom encounter or that she had damaged school property. I cut myself on my compact mirror," she stuttered. "Let me grab my first aid kit in my backpack. I'll be right back." "What kind of kid carries a first aid kit to school?" "A kid with an overprotective mother." "Tell me about it," Moira mumbled. They both locked eyes and smiled. Moira turned her head away and broke from his glance. "It's okay. I have some tissue in my pocket," Moira replied. Moira reached for her pocket, but Edward intercepted her hand. His soft skin against hers gave her goosebumps. the welcomed kind. You don't want to get blood on that beautiful peacoat, Edward replied. Edward then reached into her right pocket and felt around until his fingers touched something soft. He removed the tissue from her pocket and held it above her hand. May I? He asked. Moira nodded and gave him the okay. She gazed into Edward's gray chestnut-shaped eyes. He placed his hand on top of hers and lightly dabbed her wound until the blood was no longer dripping. Edward looked up at her and smiled. His sculpted dimples complemented his perfectly chiseled cheekbones. Moira had a tingling sensation in her stomach. It was similar to the feeling Rebecca from her Butterflies novel felt when she laid eyes on Chance for the first time at the winter ball. Edward's skin felt like a new silk blouse being worn for the first time as it glided across Moira's skin. She broke her gaze frequently to make sure she was not staring at him. Why do you keep smiling at me? It makes me uncomfortable, Moira responded. I think you're cute. Moira removed her hand from his and rolled her eyes. Now you're just mocking me, she replied. Did I say something wrong? Edward asked, confused. How could anyone who looks like me be cute? Moira questioned. What do you mean, look like you? Edward asked. You know, dark-skinned with this hair and runny makeup, not to mention these horrendous glasses, she added. Everybody has unpleasant hair days. Do you see this mountain of girl hair I have? The guys tease me about it every day. The only reason I don't have my hat on is because I left it at home. I can't wait till my parents let me cut it. By the way, I like mocha. They name beverages after your skin tone, Edward replied. Don't cut it. Your hair is perfect, Moira blurted out. You think my hair is perfect? Edward questioned. I think you got the wrong impression. You're not my type, Moira jabbed. Edward took a few steps back from Moira. A prolonged silence lingered between them. His smile faded, shoulders dropped, and he no longer made eye contact. He put his hands in his pocket and shifted his weight from one foot to the next. It was nice meeting you, but I'm going to head back to the chess club, replied Edward. He handed her the rest of her things and turned around and headed in the other direction. Moira let out a lengthy sigh and watched him drop his head and nonchalantly saunter down the hall. Her guilt ate at her for being cruel to someone who had shown her nothing but kindness. Moira cupped her hands around her mouth and yelled, Maybe we can study Latin sometime. Edward stopped, turned around, and lifted his head up. His smile returned. I'd like that, he replied. Edward walked toward Moira. He pushed his black curls from out of his face. I'm having a Halloween party this evening. It's just a few friends and no one's dressing up. You want to stop by? Edward asked. I'd love to, Moira replied. Edward took out his phone, unlocked the code, and handed it to Moira. Moira typed her number in the phone and saved it under her name and handed it back to him. I just text you, replied Edward. Moira took her phone from her coat pocket and read the text from Edward, but also saw a text from an unidentified number that read 998. She stared at her phone with a puzzled expression. Is everything okay? Edward asked. Yeah, just a text from the wrong number, Moira replied. I'll call you in a couple hours to give you the address. I must get back to the chess club meeting, Edward responded. Post it to Winnable, Moira replied. Looking forward to seeing you later, too. Edward walked backwards and watched Moira until she walked out of the building. Once she left, he headed in the opposite direction with a huge smile on his face.